Um, well, the company I'm going to be talking the most about here is Sonostar. This is a company that actually makes geodesic domes, which you'll see here on the logo. Here we go. So a little bit about myself. I went to UC San Diego, graduated in 1975 with a BS in Chinese studies and history. What do you do with that? I actually went over and lived and worked in Hong Kong for a year. That's going to be kind of important later on. While I was in Hong Kong, I decided I wanted to get into international business. There was something about the ships loading and unloading that I wanted to be the one that was loading and unloading those ships. So came back to America, went to the Thunderbird Graduate School of International Management in Phoenix, Arizona, met my wife there the first day of school. So it was a great place for me. When I graduated, I actually got a couple of interviews to go over to China, but nothing came out of that. And I ended up going to Los Angeles to sell mini computers to credit unions. And that was fairly good. Mini computers had just come out.
Yeah, what brand?
Well, we were actually agnostic as far as the hardware. We sold DG, Data General. We sold PDP-11s, this goes back way, Series 1 IBMs.
Sure. I was Burroughs at the time, so I was just curious. So, yeah.
Well, that's going to play here in a minute. But one of the problems that my customers had that prevented them from buying the mini computer systems is all of a sudden they would have to do their own printing and mailing in-house. So they asked me what I could do about that. And Xerox had just come out with their 9700 laser printer, where you could take a reel of round tape, and if you could convert that to print image, then you could print at the blazing speed of 2 pages a second in typeset quality, front and back. And Burroughs actually remarketed that, or they OEM'd that printer from Xerox. They called it their 9270, if you go back that far. Anyway, I started handling the printing and mailing for my credit union customers. And then when that company sold out to a guy in Texas named Ross Perot, I kept the side business and made that my full-time business. And in 1980, I filed a DBA for Financial Statement Services, Inc., which was FSSI. And I had no assets. I was literally running the business out of the trunk of my car. Since then, I've started 4 other companies, and all of those have been e-commerce companies. And by the way, the print mail company is still going very strong. My wife is running that now, doing a much better job than I was ever doing. It's we have a 200,000 square foot building, about 210 employees, and a branch in Texas. So that one is doing really, really well. I'm married. I have 2 grown daughters, and I've lived in Orange County over 40 years. Love it there. And then on kind of a side note, but kind of tying back to Hong Kong, I got very involved with charitable missions work over there, and have been traveling to China 2 to 3 times a year for the last 25 years. So very familiar with China. I do speak enough Chinese to get around. Well, what was the bright idea for Sonostar? I wanted to cover my swimming pool with a geodesic dome. I loved the idea of geodesic domes. I wanted the dome to be lightweight, sturdy, easy to put up. And I figured the best material for that would be PVC because it's lightweight, you can cut it. And so I looked around, and nobody made a connector for what we needed to put together the geodesic dome, which they're not the standard T's and elbows that you'd use, that you'd get at Home Depot. So I decided to make those myself, kind of pursuing this idea to build the cover for my swimming pool. And in the process, I learned an awful lot about geodesic domes. The word geodesic literally means earth measure. Why does it mean that? Uh, about 220 BC, a guy named Eratosthenes got the great job of being the librarian at the University of Alexandria, or the Alexandria Library. And he was apparently involved with the math school that the Greeks had set up. They had this whole thing on math. And he was able, using the lighthouse in Alexandria, which was the tallest building in the world at the time, checking the angle of the sun on the equinox, which was about 8 degrees. And he had heard of a place where there was no angle. And he measured the distance out to there. And then using trigonometry, he was able to calculate that the circumference of the Earth was about 25,000 miles. His unit of measurement was the stadia. But that's where we get the word geodesic. It's actually to measure the Earth. And the Greeks, if anything, they were able to think big. And that was a great idea. So by physically describing a sphere or a hemisphere, which is what a dome is, using triangles, you also create about the strongest and most efficient freestanding structure that's possible. So what did I need to invent? I needed to invent these hubs that have 6 arms or 4 arms or 5 arms. And that's what pulls the dome together. For the base of the dome, you use what we call the 4-star hub. And then the others are used in the rest of the dome. There's a lot of different configurations. You can have a sphere or a dome the same size, but by increasing the number, they call it the tessellations, you can have a lot of triangles or just a few triangles. The more triangles, the rounder it is and the stronger it is. And they use the designation V, which is a Greek letter, to determine what they call the frequency of the dome is. So you can see here, you've got the 1 frequency, 2 frequency, 3 frequency, 4 frequency. You start getting a lot of triangles when you get into the 4 frequency domes. This shows you pretty much where the hub connectors are used, and the different colors of struts are different lengths. So not all the lengths are the same, and there's quite a bit of math involved in getting to the correct length sizes. I had to go hire an engineer. Actually, I had a friend who was in the urethane business that was familiar with CAD. And we made some 3D drawings, and then we were able to output some STL files, which is what they use in the machine shop world. And the big innovation, in addition to being 6-star or 6-arm and 5-arm, was putting a 10-degree angle in the arm, which actually helped shape the dome or the sphere as we did it. And using 3D printing, we were able to make prototypes, get all the bugs kind of worked out. And then I had the molds made over in China. By this time, I had a lot of friends in China in business, and they were able to help me line me up with a guy who made good injection molds. And then we ran the first parts over there, and I built my first dome. This was in my backyard. This is a frequency 4 dome. And I used it to as a greenhouse to grow flowers. It was a great concept. Why did I start a company? Well, I had already invested at this point $25,000 in the molds. Injection molds are not cheap. By this time I had started 2 other e-commerce companies, and I figured, well, if we can sell gadgets, which one of the companies was Gorilla Gadgets, selling cell phone batteries and other kind of electronic products. The other company was selling patio umbrellas. I figured, we can try to sell domes online. I thought, I'm probably not the only one in the world that's looking for an inexpensive way to make domes. And as I did the research, I found that I really loved domes. The more I learned about them, the more fun it was. And my wife says I discovered the inner nerd in me. A lot of people have something like that, the inner nerd in them. And so I filed a DBA in 2009. and I started a website. The first website was very rudimentary. It was very bare bones. Basically had product pages for the hubs themselves, had a shopping cart where you could buy the hubs. I was using no SEO, search engine optimization. We didn't really have any marketing. And I figured the people that were going to find this website were going to be fairly sophisticated do-it-yourselfers. And I was amazed. People did find it, and they did buy the domes. This is a picture of one that we built in India for a nursing school. They wanted to have an aviary on their campus, and was able to go over there and help them put that together. But we started selling domes to Russia, to Poland, to Germany, all over the US. And I was amazed that with such a lousy website, we could actually get anywhere, but it caught on. To do the worldwide shipping, we had to figure out how to calculate the weights, how to get the correct, because every country is different for getting the packages over there. There's also customs duties and everything like that. And then we also found, as we went forward, we were getting inquiries from customers. They wanted to use bigger PVC. They wanted to have stronger domes that could go much bigger sizes. And the newer customers were not the sophisticated people we thought they would be. They were really kind of your homebody person who wants to just build something in their backyard. We also found that there are some people who are math phobic. They don't want anything to do with the math. As long as I would do the math for them, they would be very happy building the dome. And I did that a lot. Some customers weren't willing to cut their own pipes because there are 4 different lengths. So they wanted me to do that for them. And we experimented, but that was really time consuming. And when the customers did it, they were prone to a lot of errors. And the way we had done it to begin with is you had to glue the struts to the hubs. And the glue process, you have to dip it in primer, and then you put the glue on, and then you stick it in, and that makes it a permanent dome. You can't disassemble it. And customers started saying, why don't you make it so that we can just drill through and use nuts and bolts? I thought, okay, well, that's not a bad idea. The way we solve some of these problems, we found a company called IMEX that does international shipping using FedEx, but they buy the extra space on FedEx planes going all over the world. And we were able to get the shipping for about half price. And that brought it down to the range where people could afford it. We were able to modify the molds to put bolt holes in. And you can see from this picture here that we actually did kind of a countersink. And that way the oval head bolts that fit in didn't catch on anything that was covering the dome. We were able to drill the holes in the pipes to match the holes in the hubs. And the big hub here that you see is actually a molded 4-star hub. To begin with, we just cut off 2 of the legs at the base, and that was the base hubs. But later on, we thought this was more aesthetic looking, and we made much nicer looking hubs for the base. And these larger hubs could take 1-inch PVC on the inside of the hub arms and 1.5 inch PVC on the outside of the hub arms. Also invested in a work table that had, you can't really see it very well here. There's a cutoff saw over here with all the measurements where you can cut the pipes to length, and then 2 drill presses, one of which is on a rail, and you could change the length, but your holes would be perfectly aligned. And it was about a $6,000 investment to make the right tool. For the people that were math phobic, we created a calculator online where all you had to do is choose the configuration of the dome you wanted, whether it was a 2V, a 3V, a 4V, put in the diameter of the dome, and then it would compute for you all the strut lengths. And we gave it in inches and centimeters. And then we color coded everything so that it would make it easy for them to follow a map when they were putting the dome together. Side benefit, it also gives you the height, the circumference, the surface area, if you're trying to make a cover for it. Our work process was to take the orders online, print the order out, and then we had two things we sold. One was the basic kit, which was just the hubs where people would cut and drill their own pipes. We had to order the hubs from China. It took about 8 to 10 weeks. So we had to order in big lots. And if we ever ran out, it was a big problem because it took a long time to get them here. The nuts and bolts, we found a great place called Bolt Depot. They could get them to us. We could print the instruction manuals at our printing company. And then on the full kits, that's the ones where we supplied the struts here, and we color coded them with a piece of electrical tape around to give the correct color. We started using furniture grade pipe because it had no markings on it. We could add a UV additive to it so that it wouldn't get brittle out in the sun. And it was about a 2 to 3 week lead time every time we put an order in to get our pipe. And we were getting it in 20-foot lengths and then cutting it using our cutoff saw. It took us about a day to make an uncomplicated dome if we had nothing else to do. And, you know, we were only getting maybe one order a week or something like that. So it was never an issue. We had some challenges on the molds. Dealing with China was difficult. If we had mold changes, it took forever to going back and forth. And then there was a huge strike. Some of you may remember it 3 or 4 years ago in Long Beach, caused a big delay getting anything in. And we were left not able to sell anything because our stuff was all held up at the port. So we decided to ship the molds over here to the USA. And I found people who could do the injection molding locally. Actually, one guy only a mile from me to do the 1/2-inch hubs. And okay, by this time, people were now asking us for covers. Can't you come up with a cover for us? And we said, well, just go buy a parachute. It's the right size. And military surplus carried a lot of those. But we said, you know, this is something that's holding us up. Let's go ahead and make a sophisticated program that can design the cover. And we contracted with somebody using Upworks. It's a kind of a gig programming service where you put out all your requirements and then somebody will try to make an estimate on it. And of course, we were totally off in what we thought our specifications were, and he was off on his estimate. It was supposed to take a month. It ended up taking a year. But we did get a great program out of it. And we now have a dome configurator that will configure the dome and the cover in 3 dimensions. You can rotate it online. People love it. It works well. Okay, so in 2019, we were still kind of bumping along, selling 1 or 2 domes a week. And I had the revelation that why don't we, instead of trying to make domes for everybody of all different sizes, all different frequencies, let's figure out what the most popular model is and mass produce that one and see if we can get something started that we can get some continuing orders for. So what we decided on was a dome that was about 11.75 feet in diameter. The configuration was a 3V5/9, and you can see here that this whole kit came in 4 boxes. We had a cover on the top here. This is the hub kit, and then we had the 2 strut boxes filled with all the struts that make it up. And we were able to make those kits. We went into mass production, and for us that meant 25 domes. We ordered 25 covers from somebody in China. I had all the struts made and cut, and we posted them on the website in September of 2019, and we put a price of $9.99 on them. That was about double what it cost us to make it. So we had about a $500 profit margin on those. And lo and behold, we made enough sales in October, November, and December to give us confidence to order 50 more covers. And we did that right around December. Well, we found out, the title of this slide is COVID Happens. End of 2019, beginning of 2020. We wanted to know what our customers were actually using these for. We suspected they weren't using them for greenhouses, and they were using them for outside dining. This is a picture of a place called Mast Landing in New Hampshire. And they originally bought 3 domes from us, and then they bought 3 more, and then they bought 3 more. And they were using it for people to sit outside and eat. And we thought, we didn't really catch on that this dining thing was big, but we knew that with COVID, we didn't really know anything, but we suspected that the hospitals might run out of room and they may need to put mini containment domes outside for their overflow. So we started marketing them as mini COVID containment shelters. And we didn't sell a single one to a hospital. And actually through the first part of 2020, when COVID was really ramping up, the sales pretty much went flat. And by July, we were thinking of shutting down the whole company because who knew what was going to happen? This COVID seemed to be going on. And here's a graph of what our sales kind of looked like. We had a couple of good months. May 2019, we had maybe 25,000. And then November, when we sold all of them to some of the dining establishments, we got up to 30,000, but pretty flat. And our break even was probably 25,000 at that time. So we weren't really cutting it. But then in April, we had this spike in sales. And I called up some of the customers and we found out, well, in fact, they were using them for outside dining pods. And I started having to go in on weekends to catch up and make the kits and everything. And in one weekend, I, with another guy, was able to make 10 kits. And I thought, okay, that's going to last us a couple of weeks. It actually all sold out the next Monday. So we knew we had something going on here. What was also happening is customers were calling with questions. Some had complaints, and it was taking a lot of time to satisfy the customer issues. But despite all that, since sales were going strong, of course, we raised the price. And then you can see that we had the best month we'd ever had in August. Well, September was even better than August. We set a new record. We sold out of all the inventory we had. We had to place emergency orders for our nuts, our bolts, boxes, the PVC. There's a lead time for all of that. I had to make deals with everybody to cut us in front of the line to get our stuff made. But we were getting a lot of cash in the door, and before, when we weren't cutting it, we were kind of in deficit. We were able to pay off all our bills now with all the cash that was coming in. So that was good. And from what we found out from our customers, they were planning on the winter. So we thought, okay, well, we should go forward and get more. So September sales hit almost 100,000, and that was a very good thing. We loved it. We doubled our parts order again. We made more deals to get more pipe, and we had to start air freighting our covers out of China. And the price of air freight skyrocketed because so many companies were bringing in PPE, the medical, all the medical gear and masks and stuff, and we were competing with air freight space for that, and the price doubled and tripled. But we were still bringing them in, and we were still making lots of money. And then we had a customer order 100 domes from us. We thought we had everything, but the covers that were due to come in, they got delayed. Our shipment got bumped. We missed the delivery by a week. They were still happy to get them. And as exciting as it was exhausting. I was going into work very early every morning, staying very late, working on weekends, and it seemed like we could never get caught up with these things. In the meantime, the October sales more than doubled the September sales. And so, of course, we raised our price again. Now we were up to over $200,000 a month in sales. We started seeing some real bottlenecks in our production. We had our cutoff saw where we were cutting off our 20-foot lengths and making all these things, but that was very time consuming, and we did have waste at the end of that. Drilling the holes was taking us even more time than cutting the pipe because we had to line it up, and we were drilling an awful lot of holes. We had the extra step of having to wrap a piece of colored tape around each pipe to show the different size lengths. And then just making the boxes, counting the struts, counting the nuts and bolts, and putting them into little packages that went into the hub kits. That was taking us a lot of extra time for the kits to put it all together. Whoops. So I went to our extruder company that was making our PVC pipe with the furniture grade pipe. And I said, why can't you guys cut it to the right length for us to begin with, so that we don't have to cut it? And they said, yeah, we could do that. And I said, and you've got that printer on there that you print all the specifications of the pipe. Why can't we put some colored print heads in there, and we can at least indicate which color code goes with a pipe? And that took quite a bit of back and forth, but we did finally get that working. And that saved us 4 hours per kit. That was huge. And it only cost us another $10. So that saved us a lot of time. And okay, this is a little sideways here. About 3 years ago, my wife and I started a what we called our Thursday friendship group with a Turkish Muslim group of people. And we would have dinner. Started out one Muslim couple and my wife and I, who were Christian. And then we invited another Christian couple. They invited another Muslim couple. And then the two couples invited two other Muslim couples. We invited two other. Anyway, that group grew. And I got to know this guy named Murat, who had a machine shop. And over COVID, completely forgot about him. But my wife said along about November, or actually October, why don't you call Murat and see if his machine shop can help you automate some of this stuff? So I said, Murat, I called him up. Can you come over? I described the problem and he said, sure, give me a chance. So he developed a jig that would do, I think 15 of these at a time. He's very skilled at CNC, and every drill was perfect. And they were in exactly the right place. The machine was very fast, and that totally saved my bacon. We got his wife counting the nuts and bolts, got her a scale, and she was able to do that. That saved us a lot of time. He got involved with assembling the hub kits for us. He hired some guys in the Turkish community, and they put those together. And then we were having issues with the covers and the zippers ripping out. So we had them QC all of the covers, and they did that in-house. So this saved us an awful lot of time. But then I found myself taking about half a day doing the pickup and delivery. Now, the last phase of this that he's got is shearing off the end to get exactly the right length. We were down to about 5 microns to get this to work. Okay, and what happened? In November, our sales doubled again, got up to almost $450,000. And the only way we would do this was to have the automation. So if you were to guess, where do you think the sales in December would go? We were thinking that the sales could go much, much higher. The production time to build the kits went from, we were able to do 2 a day to 50 a day. We were only adding about $100 to each kit, and we were more than making up for that in profit. We were finally able to build up an inventory, and of course, we raised the price again to $12.99. So here's where the exponential sales come in. Starting in July, we had a month of about $7,000. And in August, when we hit 28,850, that was a 400% increase in revenue. September, 266% over August. October, 246% over September. And then November, we got up to 438,000. Again, a 232% increase. And altogether, from July to November, we had a 6,000% increase in sales after being in business for 12 years. This, in my experience, was totally unprecedented. So we were calculating that December sales would be incredible, but reality hit. We started running into shortages of everything. The covers could not be made fast enough in China. The air freight was becoming problematic. We were running out of PVC pipe, nuts and bolts. The pipe extruder unexpectedly had to shut down because they actually lost some workers. Some people died in their factory. They had to shut down 2 weeks before Christmas. We weren't expecting that. We had orders that they were supposed to fill. And they didn't open up until the middle of January again. And I didn't have a backup supplier. That was one big mistake. The person who was doing our injection molding could not keep up with the numbers of hubs that we needed. I got a phone call from Bolt Depot wanting to know why we were buying all these 1.5 inch 832 Phillips oval head bolts. And he said that we had bought everything that was available in the United States and they would not get another supply until April, which is this month. We actually found a substitute for that. Also, during this time period, you guys might remember around Christmas, FedEx was missing half their deliveries. They suspended their money back guarantee because they could not keep up. They were shutting whole plants down, some of their facilities, because of COVID. And then we started having problems with people calling in about zippers failing because there was a huge cold snap, and the weather was causing problems with the zippers. And I started spending about 8 hours a day just on customer service. So our sales actually slumped down to about 227,000. So it went way up and then came back down in December. In January, though, we were able to build up our inventory. There was one day where we had put covers in 2 containers on separate ships that were supposed to be about a month apart. We actually got them in 2 days apart, long after we really needed them. But all of a sudden, we had all the covers we needed. We found alternate sources for everything else. We did replace over 100 covers under warranty. If anybody had any problems with anything, we just replace it. No matter the cost, we pay for the freight. We wanted to have very happy customers. And the last thing I did is I bought a customer service package called Fresh Desk. It's a company out of India, a little bit like Zendesk, where instead of sticky notes all over my desk and computer showing who I needed to call and follow up with, this allowed you to track every customer inquiry or complaint, and it made a ticket for each one, which you could then close out after the job was done, but it kept them in a database. Well, through February, the sales continued to go down. So we had to wonder, okay, what's going on here? Should we stop our production or what? And cash flow was one of the things. We started spending all the money that we were making on building up our inventory, but we weren't selling the inventory. Anybody that's been in business knows it takes a lot of cash up front to build that inventory. The nice thing is that with e-commerce, you get your cash the next day or the day after. If somebody bought, like the guy that bought 100 domes, we had $120,000 in our bank account 2 days later. So that really worked well. And with trade credit, we had most of our vendors, we didn't have to pay for 30 days. So we built up a big cash reserve. The one exception was for my friend Murat. We paid him as soon as he handed us receipt because he was employing by this time about 10 people from his Turkish community, and he needed to pay all of them. We did pay off all our credit cards, and my ace in the hole was that we had taken out a HELOC loan a year beforehand, and we had that if we needed it. We never did need it. The aftermath, we did end up with a huge inventory. We now have over 600 kits in stock. Our customers are very happy. Our vendors are very happy. Our employees are excited, ready for more work. And if and when this cycle catches on again, we're going to be ready for it. And I now have enough free time that I can go back to doing what I love to do the most, which is invent new products and concentrate on marketing the products in new ways. Part of our strategic planning, we have been depending almost totally on our website and Amazon, but we've now onboarded our product with Walmart and a company called Gordon Foods, which is in the restaurant supply business. We're moving forward with Home Depot and a company called Spreetail that actually goes with a lot of other channel retail sellers like Lowe's, Target, and they buy up front from us and then distribute through those retailers. Our customers tell us that they're going to be ordering a lot more of these domes in the fall, so we want to stay ready for that. And meanwhile, we're able to make a lot of improvements to the products, better zippers, and better ways to fasten the cover to the dome frame. And we're bringing out a new product for the fall, which is a 5-meter dome instead of 11, almost 12 feet. This one's going to be almost 16 feet in diameter. You'll be able to get more people inside of it. And we're starting out with a run of 100 domes for that one. So that's my presentation. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is JJ. So the whole time you have self-funded this, bootstrapped it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you thought woulda, coulda, shoulda if you had brought in outside capital? What might have happened?
I was in a position where I didn't really need to do that. We had the home equity line if we needed it. It crept up on me, and then the acceleration got so fast. I wouldn't have had time to make presentations to a capital partner, but then to buy the equipment and everything, really the best way to do it that I could see was to outsource. And that's what we ended up doing with my friend Murat, and getting as much of the production done outside as possible so that all we had to do when it got into the building was fill the orders.
Another question, and I don't want to dominate it, but so the uses of the dome clearly were in the restaurant industry, right?
That's what it ended up being.
Yeah. And
I was
what
totally
percentage
off
of your sales?
What percentage of my sales was that? Probably 90%.
90%.
Or 95%. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did other big domes and, but really by far and large, the bubble dome business was the big seller.
Yeah, interesting. Because my mind was just racing about all the potential uses. So I was thinking, if I was a 10-year-old kid, God, would I love this? Because that would be my place where I could go camping bring in my dog, hang out with my buddies and stuff. So I saw envisioned a kid's version of this.
Well, we have made mosquito dome covers. So we now have a cover that is breathable and you can be outside in the summertime bug free. We've also got one we call a mini glamping dome cover that has a big picture window in it, but it's also good for camping. Same size frame. So we're kind of working with that size frame, expanding out the product line a little bit.
Yeah, sweet, sweet.
John, I have a couple questions. Wow, I just have to say, this was really fascinating. I would love to even use this recording at some point in the future for instructional purposes, if that's okay with you, because we are recording it, because this is just an amazing sort of soup to nuts account of how you created this new business. A couple of questions. The first is, was your order fulfillment here in Orange County, or were you doing that in Texas in part or different locations? And then the second one is more about segmentation and potential uses. I'm sure you've explored, like, for example, your greenhouse idea, which I remember you used to be able to keep your tomatoes very safe from marauders and little rodents coming in to eat them when they're ripe. This would seem like a fantastic opportunity for people to create greenhouses, and that's maybe what you're doing with Home Depot or even Costco or something. Seems like a lot of opportunity as well in refugee relief organizations, building temporary shelters in refugee camps, working with homeless situations where we providing kind of temporary shelter for homeless populations, disaster relief, all these things. I mean, what have been your thoughts about that as well?
Well, to answer the first question, all the fulfillment was out of Santa Ana, where we have our printing and mailing company. I was able to use some space in that building. So, one of the ways we kept our costs down is I didn't have to pay rent. And we had good shipping facilities there already. So we were able to palletize stuff, weigh it, shrink wrap it, and get it out the door to trucking companies. That was a big bonus. As far as your product segmentation, we have thought of all of those different things. The original idea was for greenhouses, and I think in Home Depot and Lowe's and those other places, I think they will probably sell as greenhouse domes. But the dining industry, I mean, they really took off on this, and it was because they were shut down. They could not have indoor dining, so they had to move outside. This was considered outside dining, even though it was inside the dome, and that it was a real phenomenon. And I don't know if that's going to repeat in the fall or not. That's why we're going to these channel sales, because we think that we've got to get the marketing out there to where more people can see what we have. As shelters, the mini glamping dome cover that I was mentioning to JJ does have a floor in it. So it's kind of good if you're going to have a shelter to have a floor in your dome, waterproof floor. I've actually talked to several people in government on the whole homeless issue. They're all thinking, yeah, this is interesting. But one of the big problems is, where do you put a homeless camp? I mean, it's such a huge issue. It's not just an issue of getting the right shelter. It's a multifaceted issue that, probably the easiest part of it is finding the shelters for people to live in. Solving the social issues that go around it are much bigger. Other uses, I mean, people have used them for observatories. because they're clear. You can open up a hole in the top. You can stick your telescope out through the top. We think that there's just an awful lot of uses. Ice fishing. People have used them out on lakes in Michigan for ice fishing.
That too for restaurants, like in colder climates, regardless of COVID, this provides opportunities for sort of outdoor dining with maybe some sort of local space heater, as long as you have the right kind of covering on it that's space heater friendly. But you could be dining outside in Minneapolis when you normally wouldn't be doing that, right? So it kind of creates potentially new markets.
I did bring in a couple of pallets of heaters, and we were selling heaters as well.
Interesting.
So it's kind of an add-on.
Like you, John, I've grown up in Southern California, but I've traveled a lot, and in the Southeast they have these critters called mosquitoes, and they build their lives around trying to avoid them. They have screened-in patios, etc. I could see a tremendous application not only for outdoor dining in restaurants, but in your backyard to have a mosquito-free zone to go to. I see a tremendous application there.
Yeah, we already sell the mosquito dome covers, and I've got more of those coming, because everybody that bought one as a outdoor dining dome, in the summertime, it's going to get really, really hot inside a clear dome, just the solar effect. But if you put that mosquito dome cover over it, you can use the same dome for outside use with no bugs.
Fascinating.
Yeah, very cool. I definitely see the use in venues as well. And just like, what JJ was mentioning, gosh, I can totally imagine a concert venue when they finally do open up again. I mean, just the ability to not just have a COVID-friendly shelter, but now have the ability to have a mosquito net or something else that's kind of cool in your VIP area. And I think that's really neat.
Yeah, there's a company in Las Vegas that bought, I think, 30 or 40 of them. The name escapes me, but they had a winter wonderland. I can't remember the name of the company, but they set up all the domes, and they started using them to people would rent them out by the hour, and they could eat in the domes inside this huge building. But it was a COVID-free zone.
I have a quick idea. I think you could potentially gain some traction with 3 add-on product categories. So one is solar. I saw some companies make triangular panels, and that would allow for it to have greater utility when it's standalone away from structures. Another is LED lighting tied to the solar. And then a third thing is really basic HVAC tied to the solar. Growing up, my folks had a greenhouse, and in Southern California, sometimes the problem was the greenhouse would get too hot during summer. And so some low energy fans would help with that.
I don't market the solar, but the one I have set up at home, I do have 2 100-watt thin film photovoltaic panels connected to a solar generator, and then that runs the LED lights that I have all around the dome. And I did buy a bigger solar generator that can actually power a heater, and we like to dine outside on our patio during the cold winter months of Southern California. But with a heater, it makes it light. What was the third idea you had on the
Oh, it was just low or high energy efficiency fans, which is sort of like HVAC light, so to speak.
Yeah. That is a good idea. And I think there are people that make those, and we could remarket those without having to reinvent them. but we would just have to make sure that the openings fit the fans that were being sold. That's a really good idea.
Hey, John, this is Vinay. I have a question. How are you doing your marketing right now?
Right now, our marketing is all on our website, and then we do place some Google ads. Amazon, we have put ads out on Amazon. Walmart, on their catalog, they do some marketing for us. This Spreetail company that we are going to get involved with, they will do all their own marketing, which we won't have to pay for. That's really a good way to do it. But no, right now we're doing, our marketing consists of myself and the guy who does my website. We kind of collaborate. We take all the pictures, we do the videos, and then we actually, okay, Facebook. We also have a Facebook page which has thousands and thousands of people that are following it, and we put a blog up on that with some of the R&D ideas that we have, and I think that builds credibility. And I don't know how good it is for sales, but I think we're trying to build a little bit of brand recognition that way.
Got it. And then kind of a separate question. Outside of all the vendors and your manufacturing process, are there any other agencies or services that you're outsourcing related to your business operations?
No. We basically do it all ourselves in-house. I mean, our shopping cart is Shopify. I mean, that would, I guess, be outsourced. We don't want to invent that wheel all over again.
Okay, great. Thanks.
John, another quick question. I don't know if this is of interest to you, but maybe others are already doing it. But had you thought of kind of, excuse me, redeploying the material? So like you have the CAD CAM files for all these dimensions and so forth. If these were made, say, structurally out of steel or aluminum, the same material, same dimensions, these could potentially be retrofitted to create permanent structures. I know people who have made homes out of geodesic domes or other permanent structures. Obviously, the PVC is kind of semi-permanent. It's not going to last maybe 50 years or 100 years. But
no, it probably lasts about 10 years. Yeah.
Okay. So had that been an interest as well?
Early on, I designed a hub that would fit with the steel pipe, the EMT, that electrical magnetic conduit that electricians use. I started marketing against myself, though, because one of the things I would say is you don't want to be in a steel frame structure in a lightning storm. And PVC has a big advantage there. You're not going to attract all those supercharged electrons. But you're right. I think there is a lot of there is a big market for a stronger steel structure. The tolerances get much tighter with metal because it doesn't have the flexibility that PVC has. We can get away with angles that you shouldn't be able to get away with on the PVC because it flexes. Yeah. But we certainly could go in that direction. I mean, that would be a future direction that we could take off on, because we really understand geodesic domes now. We understand the angles, the strut sizes, what it takes to build them. So it would be a natural place to go.
Yeah, I don't know how expensive it is. There are obviously ways to treat metal. I mean, airplanes get hit by lightning all the time because they have special materials and treatment to absorb the electrical charges. Anyhow.
Yep. No, that's a good point. You could ground it. Yeah.
Really, really cool. Very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I have to prepare for my MBA class now this afternoon, so I'm going to have to duck out here. I know there's probably a little bit more time and others have some excellent questions, but I just want to say thanks, John. I really appreciate you showing up here and helping us out from your time in Hawaii as well. So aloha.
It's a pleasure. Aloha.
Aloha,
Take care,
my friend.
Gerard.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Any other questions?
Yeah, John, I really enjoyed your story too. Really, really cool, really fascinating. I think that all the little things that you've gone through are pieces that are inevitable.
Yeah.
And
predictable.
Yeah, right. You know, of course, there's going to be, when you ramp up, there's going to be supply issues, and it seems like everything kind of converges all at once. And I definitely saw that in your story.
Yeah.
Very
I
cool.
think the need to be innovative and open-minded is really important for any entrepreneur. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. There are people that are much smarter than me that have much better ideas, and you have to put yourself in a position where you can listen to those people and not when you're hanging by your fingernails on the edge of the cliff. My wife's idea to contact Murat with his machine shop, I mean, that was brilliant. That was just at the right time, and he was able to save us. We couldn't have ramped up the way we did it without that type of automation on the equipment. So that really saved us.
Yeah. I've heard of Restaurant Depot. I haven't had any interaction with them, but I'm kind of curious. What's it take to get on their directory so that other restaurant
actually they contacted us. I think that's one of the ones we haven't followed up on. Everybody has a different model of how they want to do their sales. Some take a percentage. Some have very long payment terms. And we're finding out that there's no cookie cutter to go on board with retailers. Each one has a contract. We tried going alone with Target, and they had an $8 million liability insurance policy. And we thought that was ridiculous because, and they were basing it, I'm sorry, it was for cyber insurance. And we don't hold anybody's confidential proprietary information. But they're so big, they don't care. But then this Spreetail, they're in, I guess they've got a huge liability or cyber insurance policy, and we would not have to pay for that by going through them. They get their cut a different way. So there's a lot of different arrangements you can have with a channel retailer.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions from anybody else in the audience? Any other comments? Any other thoughts? Well, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and say thank you again, John. It was a real pleasure having you on board here to, as Gerard said, kind of soup to nuts, really explain the whole cycle of things. It's the reality that I've seen, in terms of startups and, some of the struggles that they've gone through. And thank you so much for sharing your story and really explaining it. I learned a lot about geodesic domes too. So
probably more than you ever wanted to know.
All right. Well,
okay.
Thank you again. And for those of you who'd like to tune in, we have another presentation in 2 weeks on Monday at noon. So we hope to see you join us then. Until then, thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.